Waitress refuses to serve black trucker. Her manager recognizes him as the company's owner. The bell above the diner door jingled, and Marcus Webb stepped inside, dust from 3 states still clinging to his boots. "We don't serve your kind during the dinner rush," the waitress said, not even looking up from her notepad. Marcus blinked. "Excuse me. You heard me. Truckers like you can wait outside or go to the gas station." Her name tag read Donna. Her voice carried across the half-empty diner, sharp enough to turn heads. A man in a booth lowered his newspaper. A teenage busboy froze mid-step, a tray of dishes trembling in his hands. Marcus stood there in his flannel jacket, hands calloused from 18 years behind a wheel, and said nothing. He'd learned long ago that silence sometimes spoke louder than rage. "Sir, you need to leave," Donna said again, pointing toward the door. What Donna didn't know, what nobody in that diner knew, was that the man she'd just humiliated owned the trucking company whose logo was painted on 11,000 vehicles across 40 states. And by morning, her decision would cost her everything. Marcus Webb had been driving trucks since he was 22 years old. He started with a beat-up Peterbilt his uncle co-signed for, hauling produce between Ohio and Tennessee for pennies a mile. Back then, he slept in truck stops, ate cold sandwiches, and dreamed of something bigger. 20 years later, that dream had a name: Iron Line Freight Logistics. $46 million in annual revenue. 3,000 employees. A company built from nothing but grit, integrity, and Marcus's refusal to ever forget where he came from. He still drove routes himself sometimes, not because he had to. He had a fleet of district managers and a corner office in Columbus he barely used, but because the road kept him honest. It reminded him what his drivers faced every single day. This particular Tuesday, Marcus was 300 miles from home, hauling a load of industrial parts through rural Indiana, when his stomach growled loud enough to interrupt his audiobook. He pulled off at the next exit and found Hank's Roadside Diner, a squat brick building with a flickering neon sign and a parking lot full of 18-wheelers. He just wanted a hot meal and 20 quiet minutes. He had no idea he was about to become the centerpiece of the worst customer service decision in the diner's history, one that would reach corporate headquarters before sunrise. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and bacon grease, and Marcus took a seat at the counter, setting his cap down beside him. A young waitress approached with a menu, but before she could speak, an older woman cut in front of her. Donna, the floor manager, 53 years old, and 22 years into a job she'd clearly grown tired of. "I've got this one," Donna said, sliding the menu out of the younger girl's hands. She looked Marcus up and down, slowly, deliberately. "You one of them truckers parked out back?" "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said politely. "Just need something quick. I've got a delivery window in 4 hours." Donna's mouth tightened. "We had some trouble with your kind last month. Stole supplies off the truck dock. I don't need that headache tonight." Marcus felt the heat rise in his chest, but he kept his voice level. "I'm not here to cause trouble, ma'am. Just hungry. That's what they all say." Donna crossed her arms. "Look, I'll be honest with you. We don't serve your kind during the dinner rush. Bad for business. Customers get nervous." The diner went quiet. A fork clinked against a plate somewhere behind him. "Are you refusing me service because I'm a truck driver?" Marcus asked slowly. "Or because I'm black?" Donna's eyes flickered just for a second. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." A man near the window, gray-haired, retired by the look of his flannel and bolo tie, stood up. "Donna, that's enough. Just serve the man his food." "Stay out of it, Pete," Donna snapped. "I run this floor." The teenage busboy, still frozen with his tray, finally spoke. "Ms. Donna, the owner's not going to like this if it gets back to him." Donna laughed. "The owner's never here." "Now, sir, are you leaving, or do I need to call someone?" Marcus rose from his stool slowly. dignity intact, even as humiliation burned beneath his calm exterior. "I'll leave," he said quietly. "But you should know, I'm not the kind of man who forgets." What Donna didn't realize, as she watched him walk out the door, was that her shift manager, a nervous young man named Tyler standing by the register, had just recognized the logo stitched into Marcus's jacket. And Tyler's hands were shaking. Tyler Reyes had worked at Hank's roadside diner for 8 months while finishing community college. He'd seen Donna be rude before, short with tips, dismissive of younger staff. But never like this. Never something that felt this dangerous. Because Tyler recognized that logo. The small embroidered patch on Marcus's jacket pocket. A stylized blue eye wrapped in a freight line. Iron Line Freight Logistics. His cousin drove for Iron Line out of Indianapolis. Tyler had heard the stories. About the owner who personally answered driver complaints, who'd once flown to a hospital in Nebraska to sit with an injured employee's family, who still occasionally drove routes incognito just to check conditions on the ground. "Donna," Tyler said carefully, "did you see the logo on his jacket?" "What logo? I don't have time for this, Tyler. Go bus table 6. Tyler's stomach twisted. He didn't say anything else. He didn't know for certain. There were thousands of trucking companies, and maybe it was just a regular driver. But something about the man's quiet composure, the way he hadn't raised his voice even once, made Tyler uneasy. That night after closing, Tyler sat in his car in the empty parking lot and did something he'd regret hesitating on for the rest of his life. He searched Iron Line Freight Logistics owner on his phone. A photo loaded. Marcus Webb, CEO and founder. Same face, same eyes, same man Donna had just thrown out of the diner 2 hours earlier. Tyler's hands went cold. He thought about calling Donna right then, but it was nearly midnight, and some small, cowardly part of him hoped maybe it would just blow over. It wouldn't, because 300 miles away, Marcus Webb was already sitting in his hotel room, laptop open, pulling up Hank's roadside diner's account information, the one linked to Iron Line's regional fuel and supply contracts. The diner had been a vendor partner for 6 years, and Marcus was about to make a phone call that would change everything. Marcus didn't sleep much that night. Not because he was angry, though he was, but because something deeper had been stirred. A memory from 20 years earlier, when he was the one being turned away from diners just like that one, back when his only crime was the color of his skin and a tired face after a 14-hour shift. He'd promised himself back then that if he ever built something of his own, he'd make sure no driver, no human being, ever had to swallow that humiliation under his name. At 6 a.m., he called his head of vendor relations, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Carol Ibanez. "Carol, I need everything you have on Hank's roadside diner in Clay County, Indiana." "The fuel stop, partner. What's going on, Marcus?" "Pull the contract. I want details by 9. Carol didn't ask further questions. She'd worked for Marcus for 12 years and knew that tone. Calm, deliberate, dangerous. By 9:15 a.m., Carol called back. "Marcus, that diner gets $18,000 a month from our Fuel Stop Partnership Program. Driver meal vouchers, rest area maintenance fees, supply contracts. It's been steady for 6 years. "Cancel it," Marcus said. Carol paused. "All of it? Effective when?" "Immediately. And Carol, I want a formal letter sent to the diner's ownership explaining exactly why." "Can I ask what happened?" Marcus exhaled slowly. "A waitress decided my money wasn't good enough for her restaurant. I'm just making sure she's right." By noon, the cancellation notice landed in the inbox of Hank's Diner ownership, a holding company that ran 6 restaurants across rural Indiana. And within an hour, that holding company's regional director was screaming at Donna's general manager over the phone, demanding to know what in God's name had happened the night before. Donna had no idea the storm that was about to hit her. She walked into her Wednesday shift completely unaware that her decision had already cost the diner $18,000 a month. And counting. The diner's general manager, a heavy-set man named Russ Coover, called Donna into the back office before the lunch rush even started. "Sit down," he said, his face pale. "What's going on, Russ? I've got tables waiting." "Forget the tables." He slid his laptop toward her. "Tell me about the trucker you turned away last night." Donna shrugged. "Some guy said we don't serve dinner rush truckers, especially troublemakers. We had stuff stolen last month, remember?" "Donna!" Russ's voice cracked. "That man owns Iron Line Freight Logistics. $46 million a year. He just canceled our entire vendor contract. $18,000 a month, gone. Effective immediately." The color drained from Donna's face. That's not possible. He was just a trucker. Flannel jacket, dirty boots. He's the CEO, Donna. Tyler recognized the logo last night and didn't say anything until this morning. And now corporate is asking why we let an employee humiliate a multi-million-dollar partner. Donna's hands trembled against the desk. "I didn't know. How was I supposed to know?" "That's exactly the problem," Russ snapped. "You didn't ask. You just assumed. You looked at a man's skin and his job and decided he wasn't worth basic human decency, and now this entire restaurant is paying for it." Outside the office, word had already begun to spread among the staff. Pete, the retired customer who'd witnessed the whole exchange, had come back that morning specifically to find Tyler. "That trucker," Pete said. "He's the owner of that big freight company, isn't he? I saw it on the news ticker this morning. Some story about Iron Line pulling contracts from a vendor in Clay County." Tyler nodded grimly. "Yeah, that's him." Pete shook his head slowly. "I've eaten here for 15 years. Never seen anything like that woman's attitude. Somebody needs to answer for it." By that afternoon, a local news van had pulled into the parking lot. Someone, nobody knew who yet, had leaked the story to a reporter. And Donna, watching from the diner's front window as the news crew set up cameras, finally understood that this wasn't going to simply blow over. The headline hit local news by 5 p.m. Trucking CEO turned away from Indiana diner. Company pulls six-figure contract. By 7 p.m., it had been picked up by 3 regional outlets. By 9 p.m., it was trending on social media, with thousands of comments dissecting every detail of what had happened inside Hank's roadside diner. Marcus watched it unfold from his hotel room, jaw tight, scrolling through comment after comment. Some called for the diner's closure. Others defended Donna, insisting she didn't know and shouldn't be punished for an honest mistake. But what stung most wasn't the controversy. It was a comment buried halfway down one article, posted by someone claiming to be a former Iron Line driver. This happens more than people think. Most of us just don't have the power to fight back. Marcus closed his laptop and sat in silence for a long moment. This had never been about revenge. It was about a pattern, one he'd lived through himself, one his drivers still faced on lonely highways and small-town diners across the country. The next morning, he called Carol again. "I want to meet with the diner's ownership in person," he said. "Not their lawyers, not a press release. Me, face to face." "Marcus, your team is advising against it. The optics are messy enough already." "I don't care about optics, Carol. I care about doing this right." He paused, staring out the hotel window at the gray Indiana sky. "And I want Donna there too." Carol hesitated. "You sure about that?" "I want to look her in the eyes," Marcus said quietly, "and let her see exactly who she turned away." What Marcus didn't yet know was that Donna had a story of her own, one that would complicate everything, and one that would force him to confront a truth far more layered than simple cruelty. The meeting was set for Friday morning, inside a small conference room at the diner's regional headquarters. Marcus arrived in a tailored gray suit this time. No flannel jacket, no dust-covered boots. Russ Coover sat across the table, flanked by the holding company's regional director, a stiff man named Greg Holloway. Tyler sat nervously in the corner, and Donna, pale and silent, sat at the far end of the table, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. "Mr. Webb," Greg began, "first, let me say how deeply sorry we are for—" "I didn't come for an apology from you," Marcus interrupted gently. "I came to hear from Donna." The room went quiet. Donna's hands tightened in her lap. "Donna," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm, "why did you refuse to serve me?" Donna's voice cracked. "I told you. We had theft problems with truckers." "That's not what I asked," Marcus said. "I asked why you assumed I was a problem before I said a single word." Donna's eyes welled up, and for the first time, something cracked beneath her hardened exterior. "My husband," she said quietly, "was a long-haul driver. He died 11 years ago, heart attack on the road, alone, 300 miles from home. Nobody at the truck stop even called for help in time. I've hated that life ever since. Hated what it does to people. Hated watching drivers come through here looking exhausted and broken, reminding me of him." She wiped her eyes. "That's not an excuse. I know it's not. What I said to you, the way I said it, that wasn't about grief. That was prejudice, plain and simple. And I let it control me." Marcus studied her for a long moment, the anger in his chest softening just slightly, though not disappearing. "Grief doesn't give you the right to humiliate a stranger, Donna," he said. "But thank you for telling the truth." The room sat in heavy silence, waiting to see what Marcus would do next. Marcus stood and walked slowly to the window, looking out at the parking lot where 18-wheelers idled in neat rows. "20 years ago," he said, "I was turned away from a diner in Tennessee. Different name, different waitress, same exact words you used, Donna. We don't serve your kind." I was hungry, exhausted, and humiliated in front of a room full of strangers. I never forgot that feeling. He turned back to face the room. "I built iron lines so my drivers would never have to feel that small, so if a partner restaurant ever treated one of my people that way, they'd know there would be consequences. Real ones." Greg Holloway shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Webb, regarding the contract—" "I'm not finished," Marcus said sharply, and Greg fell silent immediately. Marcus turned to Tyler. "You recognized the logo that night. You knew who I was within hours, but you stayed silent until morning. Why?" Tyler's face flushed. "I was scared, sir. Scared of losing my job. Scared of speaking up against my manager. I should have said something immediately." "I'm sorry." Marcus nodded slowly. "Fear keeps a lot of injustice alive, Tyler. Remember that." He turned finally to Russ. "And you. You didn't witness it directly, but you run this place. The culture here. The assumptions people feel safe making. That starts with leadership." Russ swallowed hard. "What do you want from us, Mr. Webb?" Marcus walked back to the table, placing both hands flat against the wood. "I want real change," he said. "Not a press release. Not a forced apology video. Actual change." The room held its breath, waiting for his decision, wondering if Iron Line's contract, and perhaps the diner's very survival, hung on whatever he said next. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said, his voice steady and clear. "The contract stays cancelled, for now. But I'm not interested in destroying this place or putting people out of work over one person's mistake." He looked at Donna. "You'll complete a formal bias and customer service training program. Not a checkbox exercise, a real one. The same kind my management teams go through. You'll also personally apologize to every driver who comes through that diner door for the next 6 months, explaining what happened and why it was wrong. Donna nodded slowly, tears falling freely now. I understand. I'll do it. Russ, Marcus continued, you'll implement a formal anti-discrimination policy, posted visibly, with a real reporting system. Not just words on a wall. Done, Russ said immediately. Whatever you need. Marcus turned to Tyler. And you, I want you to apply for a position at Iron Line. We need people who notice things, even if they're scared. People who eventually do the right thing. Tyler's eyes widened. Sir, thank you. I won't let you down. Finally, Marcus addressed the room as a whole. If, after 90 days, I see real change, not performative apologies but actual transformation, we'll discuss reinstating the contract, maybe even expanding it. Greg Holloway exhaled in visible relief. Thank you, Mr. Webb. That's more than fair. It's not about fairness, Marcus said quietly. It's about making sure the next driver who walks through that door, black, white, exhausted, hungry, doesn't matter, gets treated like a human being. He picked up his jacket from the back of his chair. I'll be back in 90 days, he said, unannounced. And with that, he walked out, leaving a room full of people forced to reckon with the weight of one moment and the long road toward making it right. 3 months later, Marcus pulled into Hank's roadside diner parking lot once again, this time in his own truck, jacket dusty, exactly as he'd been the first night. He walked inside unannounced, just as promised. The diner looked different. A small framed sign near the entrance read, "All travelers welcome here. No exceptions." Beneath it, a customer service hotline number for reporting concerns. Donna spotted him first. Her face went pale for a moment. Old instinct, old fear. Before she steadied herself and walked over, notepad in hand. "Mr. Webb," she said quietly, "welcome back. What can I get you?" No hesitation, no judgment, just simple human decency. "Coffee, black," Marcus said, sitting at the same counter stool. "And whatever's good today." "The meatloaf's excellent," Donna said, managing a small, genuine smile. "On the house, if that's all right." Marcus studied her for a long moment. The bitterness in her eyes from 3 months ago had softened into something quieter. Humility, maybe. Growth, earned the hard way. "That's not necessary," he said, "but thank you." Across the diner, Tyler emerged from the kitchen wearing a different uniform now, Iron Line's navy polo, a regional logistics intern badge clipped to his chest. "Mr. Webb," he said, grinning, "I didn't know you'd be here today." "Just checking in," Marcus said, allowing himself a small smile. "How's the new job?" "Best decision I ever made," Tyler said. "I actually feel like I'm doing something that matters." Marcus nodded, satisfaction settling quietly in his chest. Not triumph, not vengeance, just the steady relief of watching something broken slowly mend itself. As he ate his meal in peace, surrounded by a diner that had finally learned its lesson, Marcus realized this was never really about punishment. It was about making sure dignity wasn't something people had to earn. It was something everyone deserved, the moment they walked through the door. If you're watching this from a small-town diner of your own, or driving down a highway right now between deliveries, let us know where you're tuning in from. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about justice, dignity, and the quiet power of doing what's right. We'll see you in the next one.